Hi guys, welcome to another episode of AB in the Films. I want to talk about something that I don't think I've ever addressed on this show, and it's something that I've felt ever since I was 12 years old, 12, 13 years old. I want to talk about a genre in movies that isn't really a genre, but I'm giving it this. I want to talk about the plain thriller movies. I want to talk about those. And yeah, there are plain thrillers that we've seen before. Die Hard 2, I think, would technically count as one. Air Force One, obviously. But those movies aren't necessarily thrillers. Those are action movies. Now let me explain to you guys how I view a plain thriller. A plain thriller is a movie that 90% of it takes place on a plane, and the characters are going through a big dilemma or several dilemmas and trying to figure out a way around it while up in the air at 30,000 feet. And I started calling this a genre back when I was 12 because in the span of a year, from August of 2005, when I was 12, up until August of 2006, we had 3 films released that took place on planes. And I'm going to discuss the 3 of them with you right now because I want to discuss these 3 because this came out at a time when I was a kid and I was really interested in making films, and all 3 of these movies caught my attention, and I loved all 3 of them. And 2 of them I actually saw in the theaters. The first one is Red Eye.
Hi, that's actually my seat.
You're kidding. You're not kidding. The name's Jackson.
Lisa. So what do you do?
As fate would have it, my business is all about you.
I'm not sure where you're going with this.
J.R. Joe Reisert. Your father
Where did you get that?
grabbed it off your dad's desk next to your graduation picture. You tell the flight attendant and your dad dies.
What can I do for you?
She's just had a really rough day. A death in the family. Red Eye.
When I was 12 years old, okay, 11, 12 years old, I paid attention to movie trailers like you would not believe. And again, this is before YouTube. Now, the way I would watch movie trailers was I would go on yahoomovies.com and I would just go through the list of movies that were either currently in theaters, had just left the theater, or coming soon to theaters. Or I would go on demand and Comcast On Demand, and they would, if you went to in theaters, they would have the list of movies, but it was only the movie trailer. Because I remember when I would go on demand, my mom would always tell me, don't buy anything that costs money. Don't rent any movies. You can watch stuff on demand, but it has to say free next to it. And one of the things that said free were all these movie trailers. Because again, YouTube wasn't a thing yet. So in 2004 and 2005 and 2006, those years, I would watch these movie trailers on demand. And in 2005, there was a movie coming out called Red Eye, and I saw the title and I said, what's that about? And I clicked it. And the teaser trailer came up. And I did not know at the time that red eye is a term for a plane that flies at night. Did not know that. Because in the teaser trailer, Cillian Murphy is looking at Rachel McAdams and his eye turns red in the trailer. Clever. But it didn't really give much information as to what the film was about. It looked like a little thriller movie. And I'll be honest with you, this is the film that introduced me to Wes Craven. I had heard of Nightmare on Elm Street, but I hadn't seen it. I had heard of Scream, but I wouldn't see Scream in for another year or so. So when I think Wes Craven, this is usually the first film that comes to mind. You would think it would be The Hills Have Eyes, or Last House on the Left, or the Nightmare on Elm Street series, or even the Scream series, but no, it's Red Eye. And my sister and I watched this trailer constantly, and we wanted to see this. We wanted to see it badly. And as we got closer and closer, much like Corpse Bride, I would watch the clips. They had 4 clips from the movie Red Eye on the internet, and I would watch these clips. Now, these clips were only a minute long, but still, it was a little taste of the movie, and we couldn't see it yet because it wasn't in theaters yet. So finally, we went to go see it, and I got really hyped for this. Now, Rachel McAdams, my sister and I, because my sister and I both wanted to see this, we certainly knew her from Mean Girls, which had come out the year before, and she had just done Wedding Crashers, which was currently in theaters now. This was July of 2005. Red Eye came out the next month. So we knew who Rachel McAdams was. We didn't know who Cillian Murphy was, because I hadn't seen Batman Begins, which is what he had just come off of doing. So we went to go see this movie called Red Eye. My mom took my sister and I to go see it. And we were happy that it was PG-13, because if it was R, my mom would have been like, I don't know about that. Because I was 12, my sister was 9, so we were still kind of, and my mom was always, if it's R-rated, I don't know. But it was PG-13, so we went. And for those who don't know what this movie is, I'm going to explain it right now, but without giving too much away. Rachel McAdams plays Lisa Reisert. She works at Lux Atlantic, which is in Miami. It's a hotel. She's a hotel manager, and she is taking the red eye from her grandmother's funeral. She just came back from her grandmother's funeral, and she's heading into Miami, where she works. And this guy, Jack Ripner, clever, right? Played by Cillian Murphy, meets up with her at the airport, and they start having a nice little relationship. And then they find out that they're sitting together on the plane. And slowly but surely we start to realize that this was not a mistake. This was not fate. This was planned. And after that, I'm not gonna dare ruin the movie for you guys. This is a great thriller. This is a great plane thriller. Great plane thriller. And it's funny. When we get to the third act, which I don't want to ruin for you, at the time, I was a horror fanatic. I mean, this came out when I was 12. This is 2005. I was 12. I was obsessed with Hitchcock. I was obsessed with Tim Burton. I wanted to make a horror movie. I wanted to make a scary movie, a horror movie, mostly horror movies. I was really into Hitchcock at this time. When they're in the house, again, I don't want to ruin it for you, but when they're in the house in the third act, I had an idea for a movie, and exactly what they were doing is what I envisioned for a movie that I wanted to make. And I remember sitting in the theater and watching that come up, and I remember thinking, this is just like that movie idea I had, because none of that was in the trailer. So I didn't know that this scene was going to come up in the movie, or that this was going to be the third act. So I remember thinking, hey, this is like kind of like an idea I had for a horror movie I wanted to make in my house, But the acting is great, and you do wonder how she's going to get out of this situation. And Cillian Murphy, I just want to talk about Cillian Murphy real quick. This guy, this was the movie that introduced me to him. This guy was born to play this role. I can't imagine anyone else playing this guy. Just the way his face looks, he looks like a nut. Like he was perfect for this role. Perfect. And every time he's with Rachel McAdams, I got so nervous and scared for her, but also admiring what he was doing with this character. I just loved it. And I love the way Wes Craven was directing them and filming them with the camera when he gets the camera in the plane. It was just so good. And when she gets how she gets away from him off the plane, I will not dare ruin it for you. You gotta see this movie, you guys. You got to see this movie. It's PG-13, so I guess you can watch it if you're 13 years old or under the age of 13. It's up to your parents. But I'll tell you, this movie was great. I loved it. I have it on DVD. Love this movie. I had a great time seeing this movie. Now I want to talk about the next plane thriller. Now that was August of 2005, okay? 1 month later, on the same day that Corpse Bride came out, we had a little movie starring Jodie Foster called Flightplan.
you happen to see a little girl go by here?
No, I'm looking for my daughter. She's 6, my daughter. I was carrying her. She has sandy hair. She's probably carrying a chenille bear. Can't find my daughter.
Does anybody remember seeing the girl?
No.
No, sir.
What aren't you telling me? What aren't you telling me?
I'm sorry, but I don't think that she's here. What? Ma'am, we don't have any record of your daughter ever having been on board.
I put her in the seat next to me, 26A.
26A is unoccupied.
Where's Julia?
So I didn't see Flightplan when it came out, because I wanted to go see Corpse Bride. And we can only pick one movie. So I saw Flightplan when it came out later on DVD, but I did want to see it, because I certainly knew who Jodie Foster was from Silence of the Lambs, you know. But I remember seeing Flightplan, and I remember really enjoying it, because the whole time, and this was one of the big things in the trailers, is where is her daughter? Where is her daughter? Was her daughter real? Did she imagine this? Is this really happening? What's going on here? Is she psychotic? Is she not psychotic? What's going on? And the movie, and here's the thing that stinks. One of the kids, because I was in 7th grade when that came out. One of the kids ruined the ending for me before I could see the movie. So I'm going to do you all a favor. If you haven't seen Flightplan, I'm not going to ruin the movie for you. Again, you got to see it. It's a good little movie. But the whole time I remember thinking, what is she going to do? Because again, the plane thriller, because we kept getting these movies that are technically in the thriller genre, but they take place on a plane. At least 90% of the movie takes place on a plane. And Red Eye and Flightplan came out within like a month of each other. And Flightplan I really, really enjoy. I think it's a really good thriller. And then 1 year later, in August of 2006, and I know where you're going with this. Okay, this movie is not a thriller. This next one, this last one that I'm going to talk about. It's not a thriller. It's a comedy. It's an action-packed comedy. But it's awesome. You all know what it is.
At 30,000 feet.
You guys hear that?
When terror strikes,
Oh my God.
one man will strike back.
Everybody move forward!
Samuel L. Jackson.
It's my job to handle life and death situations, and I'm very good at it.
Snakes on a plane.
1, 2, 3!
That's what I'm talking about. This film is not yet rated. Starts August 18th.
I begged my dad to take me to see this, and he did not want to see it. He said, this is so stupid. No, I pleaded with him to take me to go see this, and we all knew the line. That was one of the big things about that movie. When that movie came out, for those who are too young to remember, when that movie came out, that line that Samuel L. Jackson has, that was the reason you bought the ticket. Okay? Let's be honest. You knew the snakes were CGI. It didn't matter. It didn't matter if this looked ridiculous or if this was stupid. We all bought a ticket just to hear him say that line. Okay? And I will say the line right now. And for the little ones, put your earmuffs on because I am not censoring it.
I have had it with these motherfucking snakes on this motherfucking plane! Everybody strap in! About to open some fucking windows.
So worth it. So worth it. But let's talk about snakes on a plane for a minute.
The most anticipated movie of the year has become a cultural phenomenon with countless websites, videos, and articles dedicated to it. That's what I'm talking about. On August 18th, nothing can prepare you for when fright takes flight.
Everybody buckle up now!
Samuel L. Jackson. Snakes on a Plane. Rated R. Be the first to see Snakes this Thursday at 10 p.m. at selected theaters. Starts August 18th.
When Snakes on a Plane came out, I found out that the guy that directed it was David R. Ellis, and I remember looking him up. Because at this point, this is 2006, I was on IMDb a lot, InternetMovieDatabase.com a lot. And I looked up David R. Ellis, and I remember thinking, oh, this is the guy that made Cellular. Oh, that's a good, oh, I like Cellular. That was a good movie. Oh, maybe this one will be good too. And do I think Snakes on a Plane is a good movie? Yes, I do. Is it as good as Red Eye and Flight Plan? No. But is it a good movie? Is it entertaining? You bet. And I really like the idea of, again, it sounds like a stupid idea, and it seems ridiculous and impossible, but what would you do if there were snakes on a plane? What would the plan be? What would you do? How would you get out of this? Yeah, so they're in some serious trouble. And they don't know what kind of snakes they're dealing with. They find out later that they're dealing with poisonous snakes because they're biting everybody in sight. And Samuel L. Jackson, he's got a lot of funny lines. Aside from the famous quote, which I consider that one of the greatest lines in film history, okay? I don't care if it's got a swear word in it. Gone with the Wind's catchphrase had a swear word in it, okay? This one I'm going to include as well. But I loved, okay, Samuel Jackson, he had so many great... One of the other great one-liners that he had in this movie, I remember, is when he's talking to the doctors on the ground, the poisonous snake experts, and he's asking them all these questions, and he goes, so what's going on up there? And he said, well, they're attacking everybody and everything up here. They're especially fond of the lays.
It could possibly be a pheromone. That's what female animals release to trigger mating behavior. It could also provoke serious hyperaggression, like some kind of drug.
Well, that's good news. Snakes on crack.
Only Samuel L. Jackson can deliver a line like that and make it awesome. I can't explain it. It's a talent that he has. He did it in Pulp Fiction. He's doing it here. And I tell you, it's just, this movie... Oh, and when that anaconda showed up, oh man, I wasn't expecting that. But I will say this, my dad and I went to go see this. When they're in the airport, before they get on the plane, the minute the Paris Hilton wannabe shows up, and she's got that little chihuahua in her purse, my dad and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, how long until the dog gets it? How long? You think the dog's gonna get it? And my dad's like, absolutely. The question is when. But the way it happened, the old guy grabs it and he throws it at the snake and wraps around it, and the dog's leg twitches. My dad and I, we were laughing so hard out of our chairs. We were laughing so hard. Yeah, and there's a lot of good serious moments in it too. Like Samuel L. Jackson, he's got a nice little romance, I think. It's kind of, well, I don't want to say it's subtle. I mean, it's quite obvious. But with Juliana Margulies, I think her name is, or Margulies, I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. But they have some good chemistry together in this movie. If you guys don't know the plot of the movie, other than the fact that there's snakes on a plane, Samuel L. Jackson is Neville Flynn, FBI, and he's protecting this guy who witnessed a murder. And to put the guy who did it behind bars, they have to go to L.A. to testify against him. And the killer, to try to kill the guy that Sam Jackson is protecting, puts snakes on the plane to try to get rid of him because he's a witness. So that's pretty much the plot of the movie, and they got to figure out how they're going to get out of this situation with the snakes on the plane. And this movie is bloody, it's gory, there is sex in it, there is swearing in it, there's just everything in an R-rated movie you can imagine, and that's why it's awesome. It's one of those it's one of those great summer flicks, okay? Like, when I watch this movie, I just go back to being a 13-year-old again. I remember just doing all the things in the summertime when I was a kid. It brings back memories for me, this movie, and it's a lot of fun to watch, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. And if you haven't seen these movies, definitely check all three of these movies out. I recommend all three of them. If you haven't seen these, check them out. You're going to have a lot of fun watching these three movies. These I call them the plane thrillers. I've been calling them that since I was 12, 13 years old. I'll keep calling them that. I don't care if Snakes on a Plane is a comedy, not a thriller. I'm still putting it in there because it takes place on a plane. So that's all I got to say about the plane thriller movies, and I will see you guys in the next review. Take care.